A decade ago, the world was captivated by the mysterious disappearance of a mother and her son during a safari adventure. The search efforts yielded no clues, and the case remained an unsolved enigma. However, the quiet town was shaken to its core when, out of the blue, the now 22-year-old son emerged at his grandparents' doorstep, his sudden return raising more questions than answers. Sonia and her son Jeremy had been on one of their bucket list vacations to South Africa. They had only been there for a week, but they both already loved every second of it. They went on various safaris and visited a nature park not far from their accommodation. They still had 2 more weeks of traveling to do, but they knew nothing could break their holiday spirit. One morning, they went on a safari tour with a ranger. They were in a group of about 16 people and drove around the huge nature reserve close to their accommodation. It was during their first stop that they suddenly disappeared. No one knew or saw where Sonia and Jeremy had gone, and no one had heard from them ever since. As soon as the ranger had noticed them missing, he had sounded alarm. The nature park was closed off and a search began, combing out every inch of the park. It became national news: a mother and son missing, probably killed by wild animals in South Africa. The family even hired a private detective and flew him over to the national park so he could do his own investigation, but it all led nowhere. Jeremy's grandparents still prayed every night for his and Sonia's safe return, never giving up hope. Then, on one random Tuesday, their doorbell rang. Curious about who it might be, Jeremy's grandmother, Connie, opened the door. She recognized her grandson immediately. She fell to her knees and almost got a heart attack. "Greg, get here." Now she yelled for her husband. For a few minutes, his grandparents were speechless. They couldn't believe they were finally reunited with their grandson after all those years. Jeremy was now 22, not the little boy they used to know. "Oh gosh, Jeremy," his grandmother eventually muttered. "What on earth happened to you? And where is your mother?" Jeremy looked at the ground. "It's been just me for a couple of years now." He had a smile on his face, but his eyes only displayed pain. Jer's grandmother sighed. "Can you tell us what happened to you?" Jeremy stayed silent. Then, he suddenly took a deep breath. "I'll tell you guys everything. It was early in the morning when my mother and I got ready for a sunrise safari. It would be the last safari before we would travel to our next accommodation, so our bags were already packed. During our first stop, I really had to pee. So I got off the safari jeep and ran to the bathroom on my own. Then suddenly I heard a strange voice. It was a man telling me I had to get out of the bathroom immediately. "Time to go, kid," he said, a strange gentleness in his firm grip. I looked past him, hoping to see Mom, but she was nowhere. Fear knotted in my stomach as he led me away, not back to the jeep, but deeper into the bush. Days turned to a blur filled with fear and uncertainty. Amidst it all, I noticed something peculiar. One of the men, his eyes occasionally betraying a hint of sympathy, began slipping extra food onto my plate and making sure my water was always full. As time crept by, I grew more observant of my mysterious benefactor. I saw him sabotage the gang's plans subtly, like giving them false information about our whereabouts. Lying awake at night, I often thought about this man who offered me secret kindnesses. Who was he really? Why was he helping me? And in the midst of my grim reality, the small gestures of kindness from this unknown man became my lifeline. Every sneaky bite of food, every protective glance was a ray of hope in the darkness. Every time I saw Mom with the phone, a flood of questions surged through me. Who could she be talking to in our situation? And the secrecy surrounding Mom's phone calls hung heavily between us. One night as I lay awake, a muffled conversation from outside our makeshift shelter caught my attention. The captors were talking about how our disappearance had become international news. It gave me hope, knowing there were efforts to find us. We were caught in a situation far bigger than I had ever imagined. A plaything in a dangerous game we had no control over. Later that day, one of the kidnappers, with a tone too casual, told me Mom had been moved to another location. The days that followed were a blur of loneliness and fear. I had grown used to Mom's presence, her strength. Despite the gnawing fear and the growing despair, a part of me refused to give up hope. I clung to the belief that we would be reunited. In the echoing silence of Mom's absence, I had to learn to adapt. At first, as days turned into weeks, I began to observe the kidnappers with a keen eye, searching for any clue about Mom. But with each passing day, I felt a growing strength within me, a determination to not let this situation defeat me. The same one who had been showing me small kindnesses began to help me more openly. His assistance was subtle at first: more food, better sleeping arrangements, but it was clear he was putting himself at risk for my sake. This unlikely ally, whom I started to think of as my guardian in this hell, taught me how to survive. He spoke in riddles and half-truths, careful not to reveal too much, but it was clear he knew more than he was letting on. Together, we began to plot my escape. It was a risky endeavor, full of uncertainties and dangers, but it was a chance I had to take. The plan we devised was both daring and dangerous. It hinged on timing and precision, requiring me to act when the gang was least attentive. The night of the escape was a symphony of tension. The darkness enveloped us like a cloak, both a friend and a foe. The slightest sound felt like thunder in the quiet night. With every step away from the camp, the weight of what I was doing pressed heavily upon me, fear and excitement battling within. A false trail was set, leading in the opposite direction of my escape route. Meanwhile, I slipped away, unnoticed in the chaos. When I finally emerged from the dense wilderness, the first rays of dawn were breaking on the horizon. The fresh morning air was like a balm to my weary soul, the light of dawn a symbol of hope. Jeremy's grandparents were silent, letting everything Jeremy just told them sink in. But he wasn't done yet. He revealed a small, enigmatic item, a delicate, intricately carved pendant that had belonged to his mother, Sunya. He had kept it close since the day of his harrowing escape, a constant reminder of her. It was more than just a piece of jewelry, it was a symbol of their bond, a piece of her that he had managed to hold on to. The possibility that Sunya had left him a breadcrumb trail in the form of this pendant invigorated Jeremy, fueling his determination to uncover the truth. Gathered around the kitchen table, Jeremy's family and a seasoned detective scrutinized the pendant. The detective, with his experienced eye, examined every curve and notch of the carving. In a breakthrough moment, the detective discovered a cryptic note concealed within the pendant. The note, written in Sanja's handwriting, was faded but legible. Armed with information from Sunya note, the detective formulated a plan to infiltrate the gang's hideout. The note had provided critical insights into the gang's operations and possible locations. Coordinating with local authorities, the detective utilized the note's clues to navigate the perilous underworld that Sunya and Jeremy had once been entangled in. As the investigation progressed, a more comprehensive picture of Sunya life in captivity began to emerge. The evidence gathered from the hideout, combined with the details in the note, revealed her resourcefulness and determination. Each clue found along the way brought them closer to understanding her incredible journey of survival. The trail led to a remote area where the signs of Sunya passage abruptly stopped. This sudden end to the trail left her fate shrouded in mystery. The story concluded with a small, intimate ceremony held by Jeremy and his family to honor Sunya. They celebrated her courage, her love, and the indelible impact she had on their lives. Sunya's story, though marked with mystery and loss, remained a powerful testament to the enduring spirit of a mother's love and the unyielding will to survive against all odds.